All right, everyone. So we have a very special presentation today, and I will be honest with you, I'm a little anxious or not sure how to feel about it. So um, a little background. So as you know, X-Culture is all about both cross-cultural experience, but also development of cross-cultural competencies. And so the project was launched for that purpose, and we've done a lot of research trying to see if and how we can improve cultural and cross-cultural competencies of our project participants and students. And we've done some research, and it does seem like what we do improves students' competencies from before to after the project, but you never know. Plus, all of the research we've done, I'll be honest with you, I was sort of biased. I want to see a positive change, and as a researcher, maybe I don't know, not fully objective. And so when a few days ago, Paula Caligiuri contacted me and said that she's actually done a study on X-Culture, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So on the one hand, I kind of feel like a research subject because, again, here it's a external independent assessment of, in a way, how well we do at X-Culture. At the same time, it's also an interesting presentation for the reason that Paula is probably top 3 in the world, if not top 1 in the world when it comes to cross-cultural competencies. So she's one of the most published researchers on the topic of cross-cultural management, cross-cultural competencies. She's an author of many concepts, or she's developed enough new things in this domain. And so her specialty is cultural agility, which is another facet of cross-cultural competencies. So usually we talk about cultural intelligence or global mindset. So cultural agility, it's a special type of animal in this domain. And so it's interesting to learn about that aspect as well. And so plus, again, unlike most academics who just simply come, teach, and go home and sort of are more sort of academic, Paula is both academic, but also a practitioner. So she's a co-founder of the company called Skillify, which incidentally is also one of the client companies or partner companies of X-Cultures this semester. So some of the students may be working on the challenge presented by Skillify. But so yes, she spends a lot of time as a business consultant, as a business woman herself. And so she's not only teaches this stuff, but she practices this stuff. And so that's very both valuable and to some extent unusual in the academic world, because as I said, most professors sort of never leave the walls of academia, whereas Paula does. And so, yes, I don't know all of the details of the study. I hope it will be what I hope it is, but if not, again, it's always good to get some constructive, independent criticism and learn from it. And so, yes, so we decided to do a short, quick, sort of a report of the study findings, but I'm also hoping we will at least a little briefly talk about what cultural agility is and how it relates to cultural intelligence and cross-cultural competencies in more general sense, and maybe even a few words about Professor Caligiuri's general research stream and perhaps, work that she does in this area. So I'll turn the microphone to Paula, and we have, I see a lot of people waiting, sorry, admitting them all. So I see we have a bunch of professors here as well who do research in the same area, maybe some who are trying to get into this domain, and I suspect we will have perhaps at least a few students. So very good to see you. I see Karen here, I see Ernesto, Francesco, Katie, so very nice to see you all, Phil. So if you have any comments or questions, it's a meeting, so I guess we have a presentation, but since the group is relatively small, we can manage it more as a meeting. So if you have questions, raise your hand or type your question, and maybe we can have even a productive discussion. So Paula, the microphone is passed to you. Please, the floor is yours.
Vas, thank you. And I'm wearing, I guess, a lot of hats today. Certainly, I am also a professor who uses X-Culture and it was so excited to assess kind of pre-post with my students as a function of participating in X-Culture. I'm also, as you mentioned, Skillify is a company that is part of the X-Culture program, and frankly, we have had wonderful experiences. So as a founder of Skillify, it's just been wonderful being on that side of it as well. I just want to share two small things. One is I'm on a little tiny laptop, so I'm not able to see anyone. If you don't mind, Vas, just interrupt me if you see a question coming in, or if something is in the chat or a hand goes up, I won't be able to see that.
Yeah, I will monitor the chat. And as I said, so this time we have about 2,000 people. And I recognize some of the names, as I said, Ernesto, Sharon, Karen. So people who have done research in this area as well. So I'm very curious to see what they have to say. And so Natalia, Lydia, so quite a few colleagues here who have published extensively in cross-cultural management and business. Some names I don't recognize, so I suspect maybe even some graduate students have joined us. So I'm curious to see where this discussion leads us.
Of course, of course. And you know me, I'm happy to answer whatever I'm able. And I just also, I guess, want to mention what Skillify is. We're a public benefit corporation, which means that part of our charter, part of our mission, we were co-founded in part for greater good. So a good portion of what we do, especially in the academic community, is to give tools away for free that enable globally us to democratize the acquisition of soft skills. What this means for us with X Culture, with what we do, is that this tool that I'll be talking about, My Guide, is the one that we've used to assess pre-post. And a lot of the resources on My Guide are available to faculty for free.
And just to make sure, so this is a tool developed by you and your company, right? So that's a proprietary tool. It's not just some out there. It's actually, you not only use it, you actually developed it, right?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, it was developed on the basis of research. There's been versions of this that I've been using with my client companies since the late 90s. And so there's years and years of research behind it. But I want everyone to know that anyone can use it at any time. You don't need to contact me to use it. You could just go onto the site and use it directly for free. There's no string attached. You can just go and use it.
Even better. But one thing I would like to emphasize in case we have any students here, so this is something that is very important to me. So very often you see, I don't know, on the news something about science, and they say scientists in the United States have discovered, or scientists in Boston have measured, or scientists from, well, when they say scientist, that's one of those scientists. I mean, it's not just some sort of abstract group, it's a specific people. So every time you hear something like, research has shown, well, here you have the actual person who developed the instrument for measuring these kinds of skills, collected the data. So next time you hear something on the news about science or researchers or, American scientists, well, here is one who actually stands behind those specific data. So a unique opportunity to actually meet the person who developed the instruments, collected the data, ran the analysis. So that's one of those scientists from Boston.
Oh, thank you. I guess I'm not the avatar for scientists from Boston, but I appreciate that. Yeah. And I will be happy to share research. As you know, I know some folks are interested in the difference and similarities between cultural agility and cultural intelligence. I just recently wrote an article for Dave Thomas's handbook on cultural intelligence, comparing and contrasting. We won't have time to go through all of that, but if you send me an email, I'll be happy to send you that chapter. So cultural agility, it kind of asks to start with what is it? It's the ability to comfortably and effectively work in different countries and with people from different cultures. That's got to be the most generic definition. It can fit global mindset, cultural intelligence. It fits lots of constructs out there. The research I've done on cultural agility is more about saying, what enables people to go into a new and novel situation? And novelty could be anything, intergenerational, different professions, a new country, a new organization. What enables people, humans, to go from comfort to novelty, to get into a new situation and enable them to read the environment accurately and respond as needed? So what cultural agility is really the competencies needed in order to read and respond. What we know that's different about cultural agility is that we're not trying to predict to adaptation. We're not trying to predict one's ability to adapt or adjust. What we're trying to do is predict to an ability to decide whether you need to adapt. Sometimes you do. Whether sometimes you need to hold your standard or the standard of your organization, which is needed at times. And how do you do that? Or whether you need to integrate and say, okay, my way, your way, let's try to come up with, the combination of the two. This could take, it takes me a semester to get through this, but for the most part, what we know is that there's this certain bucket of competencies that enable people to kind of pull the lever as needed around whether to adapt, whether to minimize, and whether to integrate. Those 6 competencies are listed here. And again, I'm happy to share research studies, if any academics are interested in this kind of research. I have a book on the topic, a couple books on the topic, and that chapter in particular. But these 6 will seem like the usual suspects. Curiosity, to be aware of differences, to ask the right questions. Tolerance of ambiguity, to be able to hold your brain in a state of almost uncertainty longer than it normally is comfortable with. Resilience, because hey, you know what? When you're in a new novel situation, you're going to make mistakes. And if under our brains, I'm a psychologist, and I really have a lot of my work that goes back to actually evolutionary psych. So we know that humans under situations of novelty seek comfort. And so people who are higher in resilience can linger longer in situations that are either uncomfortable or actually, frankly, just when things are going wrong. And that's when the resilience and tolerance of ambiguity are needed. So those kind of are the self-management competencies. Relationship management competencies. We're human, we're tribal. We have to learn new contexts. We have to be accepted, if you will. And understand the norms and how to read accurately the environment. That requires humility, the ability to say, look, I could be brilliant in medicine, journalism, chemistry, whatever, finance, but to understand the context, you need to learn how to be brilliant in that new context. Again, whether new company, new country, whatever. Relationship building, the quicker we learn, the better our relationships, the quicker we can learn the context. And perspective taking, the ability to just suspend the belief that you're seeing things accurately, that there could be another lens. These 6, I'm sorry I'm going so quickly, but these 6 kind of combine together, and individuals they're compensatory in many ways, but they combine together that enables people to toggle across those 3 ways of responding. So that was kind of the nutshell. That's where my heart beats in trying to help individuals, whether I'm talking about my freshman students, my MBA students, or senior executives. I want people to build these competencies because I know they'll be better able to succeed in these new and novel situations. So that's kind of that's where my heart's beating. As I mentioned, there's this tool, My Guide, and I can't emphasize enough. So many people think they have to contact me or contact the company in order to use it. You don't. You can go on. Your students can use it. It's free and available. There's 2 parts that are open to everyone. One is this cultural awareness tool, which I won't be talking about today, but it's useful, especially for ex-culture students who are working on multicultural teams. And then the one that I will be talking about today is this cultural agility competency assessment. What I've found in my research is that, it's that green gear, that just putting people in experiences on their own isn't enough to develop cultural agility. What it really takes is those two other things, kind of the 3 in combination, to build cultural agility. Individuals have to be aware that you could be experiencing a cultural difference and what that difference might be, just kind of the awareness of it. And then they need to have those 6 competencies to some extent in order for the experience to help them build this ability to read and respond as needed. So I'm so sorry we're going so quickly, but that's that's kind of where these competencies fit into the broader research around cultural agility. From my guide, students receive this dashboard, and there's multiple, they receive a dashboard for values, but for the most part, we'll talk right now just about the competencies. They receive a dashboard on each of those 6 competencies, where they are relative to the STEM scores are created based on individuals with significant international experience. So they'll get to see the variance of their own scores, what they're kind of naturally strong at, what they have, you know, could develop further. And yeah, so I'll kind of start with that. So
Can I ask you, sorry. Can I ask you, so the use of this tool, we get a lot of inquiries from professors who would like to assess their students either before and after X culture, or sometimes just one time during the international business course they teach, just something to discuss with the students. So I understand the tool is free. And so do I understand correctly that all they need to do is just give the students the link, the students take the test, the results are what, automatically generated right away, or is it scored manually and it takes time to see the results? Is it something that is easy to use? Like, for example, let's say in this lecture, I would like to use it. Or is the process more elaborate and takes a little bit more time? Because I know many professors, perhaps even including those attending today's meeting, will probably want to use the tool with their own students, or maybe when they do some training for corporate clients.
Yep. We have tens of thousands of people using it all around the world. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes or so to complete the assessments, Voss. You do not need, all you do is send the students to that site. That's it. Have them select, if they're undergraduate students, have them select the undergraduate track. If they're graduate students, have them select the graduate student track. And that's it. They just go in, they take the assessments. I mean, it's immediate. It's a web app that out will come their results, and then there's some advice that comes out in the free version. That's all available. One time they can get their results, their dashboard, advice. They can look at different cultures. They can compare. So this is the competency side, but they can also look at their values, compare their values to kind of the mean values of different cultures. And it's a fun tool. It's a great way to spark discussions. And I could do, if you wanted, I'm happy to come back and do one just on like the different ways that you could use the free version of my guide. But yeah, it's all available to myguide.com. That's it. The toughest thing will be the spelling it. It's MYGIID.
One of the defining sort of not features, but sort of, I guess, well, my guide has 2 eyes and Skillify has 2 eyes, and so that's how you know that's the original product specifically from Skillify, not just something else. So yeah, that's a nice way to differentiate itself. So it seems like misspelling, but it's intentional.
Yeah, no, it's intentional, and it was sort of a fun way to say we're helping people see eye to eye. Yeah, my guide, you know. Anyhow, so let me get my. Oh, why is my there? It is.
And I put the link in the comments in case you want to take a look. So the link is right here in the chat for this meeting.
Yeah. So this was I wanted to share sort of the results of X culture on 2 levels. One was at the individual level, and then one was about the class overall. So this particular class that participated in X culture, it was my first time doing it, doing X culture. This was a master's level course. I had a mix of, most of them were MBA students. I had some Masters of International Management students, but it was a traditional lecture-based course. X culture was the dominant experiential component of the course. There wasn't anything else, you know, any significant experiential activities going on. So this was the assignment. This was at the end of the semester. They had taken my guide at the beginning of the semester. So they already had their dashboard. They took that in September. At late November, right before the semester ended, first week of December, they received an email. I'm sorry, this assignment. You're finished. You know, here's what we're gonna do. This is the assignment. go back to the My Guide account. So this is on this part to retake the test is past it's past the paywall. So that I do want to mention, but the students were able to go back to My Guide. They click on that tab to learn about yourself, which is where the competencies are. They could scroll over. It says, you know, retake my assessment. They retook their assessment. And then they received a dashboard of like where they began and where they, you know, where they ended. So then the questions were that they had to write a little essay on was which scores went up and then what caused that? Like help them basically understand their own narrative. And it could have had nothing to do with X culture. I didn't mention X culture. I just said, tell me why you think they went up. It could have been class assignments. It could have been discussion in class. It could have had something to do with work that they were doing. Like there was no leading question there. It just said, if it went up, why did it go up? If your scores went down, why did they go down or why did they stay the same? And then I just warned them that sometimes scores do go down because it's kind of, you don't know what you don't know. So anyhow, this was the part one and these were just narrative. This was solely narrative. Sorry, I'm going to have to minimize this. So it said, you know, so this was just a student's, I'm taking a snapshot of the students. So where it was in blue was their original, and where it's in orange was the score that went up. And this was just an example of one student who opted to share, because I didn't go in and look at everyone's results. This was just one student who put the results in the assignment, in the essay. And then they wrote, you know, they had the ability to write about it. This student actually, cultural agility went up a lot for considering there was no on the ground international experience. Their score went up 2 points, which is tough to do, especially at the highest levels of the distribution. Their scores went up tremendously for resilience and relationship building, and to some extent for curiosity, perspective taking, and humility. The student wrote in the narrative, I believe this is because of the trials and tribulations of the X Culture project and having to be more adaptable to the situation. I thought it was a really nice way to capture it, and really nice for the students to reflect on the change. Here were just some other things. I had ChatGPT pull out sort of what some of the essays that included X culture. Through working with people from different cultures on the X Culture Group project, my ability to develop empathy and respect for people from different cultures has improved. These were individuals, again, these were students responding to their change over time. Another one wrote, I've always been excited to build relationships, but I'm more comfortable in my own skin after this course and working with people across the world for X culture. Another student wrote, through working with people from different countries on the X Culture Group project this semester, my ability to develop empathy and respect for people from different cultures has improved. I thought that
music to my ears. Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they say that it was not easy, or they don't say that it was just, you know, all pleasant. Yeah, it is challenging, and it's supposed to be challenging, but we want sort of, you know, learning from those challenges. And so that's exactly, yeah, that's very happy to hear that kind of feedback. So
yeah, it was really powerful. The other kind of version of this though that I did is I looked at the class overall. So in the view I have, I can see the scores for the entire class, their high scores, their low scores, and the mode of their scores. So for my class overall, X culture enabled their cultural agility to go up significantly. And that was admittedly for someone who's studied, you know, the quality, a lot of my research is around the quality of experiences that individuals have. I was thrilled that a virtual experience enabled them to build cultural agility. This was huge. This was, to me, this was an incredible finding. And then I kind of dug a little bit deeper into some of the unique, like what was driving that and where they saw where the numbers claimed kind of that the greatest changes over time in, again, the pre to post My Guide results were in relationship building, tolerance of ambiguity, and curiosity. The others actually were like perspective taking. I didn't put them all on here because they were getting too small, but they were like perspective taking in that they remained relatively flat. But to see that much, being driven by those types of competencies that bucketed in both the self-management competencies and the relationship management competencies was really, to me, very, very interesting. The fact that tolerance of ambiguity moved, also to have just the research on that is that one's a tough one to move, because basically what that means we've done through X culture in this case is that we've reframed individuals' norms for what they believe is ambiguous. So now for many of them, being in a multicultural team, working with people around the world actually can be a comfortable norm. Which is, it's kind of hard to think about it, but it's a really, really important finding, and one I'm excited to write these findings up. Then of course I asked ChatGPT to read through and do a little bit of a content analysis on the student essays, and the ones most mentioned, you could read those over here, right? The curiosity, tolerance of ambiguity, resilience, humility. Those were the ones that were mentioned a lot. So even though those scores weren't going up, the students were talking about needing those competencies in order to be successful in terms of what they thought they were building from the experience. So I thought it was fascinating in that, the numerical data showed change over time. And then just in their narratives, they spoke about all of the competencies in terms of being important as part of, both succeeding in X culture and also what they believed that they had developed. I just want to close, and I know we're really close to the end of our time, but I just wanted to close by saying that if you're interested in learning more about My Guide and feel like you need like a little more time with somebody as opposed to just going there yourself, you're always welcome. You can contact me, but probably the person you really want to contact is Diane. She can answer any questions specific to My Guide. But if you have any research-related questions, or questions about, as you would ask a faculty member sharing information to another faculty member about a class, sharing course materials or whatever, certainly direct those to me. If my name is a little tough to spell. I think it was misspelled in the invitation, but if you can spell
my apology for that.
No worries, Buzz. It's just that, if you can spell my surname, I'm pretty easy to find out there, both on LinkedIn and in email. Yeah. But again, if it's My Guide specific, give Diana a call or an email, send her an email. And if it's research or course related, you're certainly welcome to contact me. But I was excited for my students, both in terms of the way they were able to understand the narrative of the experience, and also I was really proud of the course that included X culture, and I'm doing it again.
I see several people switched on their cameras. I assume they will be asking questions, but if I may, one question that very important to me. So practical implications. Okay, well, I run this project, and so it seems like whatever we do already improves students' cultural agility, but anything else we can or should be doing to further improve it? I'm not sure if it's trainable, or should we offer some sort of webinars, maybe like this one, or maybe should we make some sort of self-assessment mandatory with some form of feedback? What would be the practical, or what would be your advice for our practice as we're trying to even further improve cultural agility and cultural competencies?
Yeah, I guess it would be twofold. It's a bit, those gears matter, right? Each of the gears matter. So I would strongly recommend, if in your classes you're not, meaning everyone, all of us, myself included, if we're not already talking about what could potentially be different in terms of communication, trust building, credibility, and the like, we need to highlight those. And so, I mean, I do it in a kind of a combo way. I send the students to my guide. I have them like take their own assessments, and then they bring those, they sort of have their assessments of their values. So this is things like formality, informality, relationship building, task orientation, you know, those kinds of collectivism, individualism. They have those in front of them. And then we talk about how that might play out in a multicultural team context. Really important. If you're not already doing that, minimally give them an online tool. And I'd be happy, Bess, to do that, you know, for the broader community. And then what I would strongly recommend, remember, even the best knowledge and the best experience, like X culture, won't build cultural agility without some understanding of those competencies and how to continually build them. So we do spend a lot of time thinking through like, okay, how can I leverage tolerance of ambiguity in that situation? How can I leverage perspective taking in that situation? And that too is a way to accelerate development.
I always feel a little guilty of not offering some kind of training before the project. So we do sometimes assessment, but we don't really offer cross-cultural training. And I'm thinking maybe we should develop some sort of a training guide or self-guided online course for students, at least for those who want it. But anyway, I see several professors switched on cameras. Karen, Phil, Sonia, did you want to ask questions? And I see we started getting questions. I'll read them in the chat for now. So
I'll go first if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Hi, Paula. I'm Karen Stock. I teach cross-cultural management at a small university in Ohio. I came across your name. I think you did a webinar for human resource management. I do short-term study abroad programs, and I was looking at a tool that could do pre and post. I'm just wondering, I know with X Culture, Voss, we do a cultural intelligence pre and post assessment for students.
Not always pre and post, but at least once for sure.
At least once. One thing that you said, Paula, I found really interesting is the way to aggregate that data by class. Because I think I have students write reflection papers or with different prompts, even encouraging them to keep a journal of what they're experiencing during the X Culture. And I think prompting them with some of these competencies and being able to cite examples would be a tool. But do you find, how would you recommend, I guess, if we're doing this on our own, of trying to get class aggregate data that's usable? Because I think we're seeing these on a one-on-one basis of how different competencies and cultural intelligence are improved, but I'd like to have an easier way to figure that out by class.
Yeah, Karen, thanks. I want to mention one thing, because I think we both do the same thing with having our students reflect. One of the features that's been really helpful at the beginning of the semester when I have them do the competency assessment is I have them reflect on their own strengths, because sometimes they just need to create the narrative around when in the past that they've relied on those strengths and then build on those. So it's a really nice way to help kind of build a little bit of efficacy for the experience. They don't all have the same strengths. Some of them are more relationship oriented, extroverts. Some are more curiosity, a little more introvert, but they all can succeed. They just will do it in a different way. So I'm with you on that. If it was a one-shot deal, you can absolutely use the free version of my guide. Is whenever you want to do pre-post, we have like this freemium version that gives a lot of other things. But in addition, it enables the students to retake the test and see their change over time, but enables you to go in and look at the group also pre-post, which is wonderful. We're public benefit corporation. It's not particularly expensive. I mean, kind of like, Diane's a better person to answer. If she's on the call, maybe she could answer it, but it's a really inexpensive price point to get these data and have the students use it. Plus they get even more stuff. You can do teams and all that, which is kind of fun. The students like that.
Give me a ballpark, like for your class, how many students, and what would it be for, say, 40 students to do pre and post? Because I looked at, Globe had a model that was free for a while, and then they started charging that you could look at teams. And
I think, shoot, I'm sorry. And I don't think Diane's on this call.
Yeah, Diane didn't make it today, so yes.
No, she's not. I think we had a client this morning. So I think it's about $500 for, I mean, it's not a lot, you know, and you can use it throughout the year. So you can basically put all your students in for one semester and then like delete them all, put in another group of students for the second semester and delete them. And if you teach over the summer, you can put them in again, you know, so we have students we have faculty who just keep reusing the site for the year. But Diane's the better person to answer that question. And, you know, we try to make it comfortable for everyone. At the same time as I have an angel investor, the co-founder, likes to keep reminding me, Paula, we are a public benefit corporation, but, you know, we are not pro-loss. So we try to kind of build a little bit into what we sell to the companies, but we try to make it really easy for universities to say, you know, sure.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Phil, Sonia, did you have questions?
Sorry, my camera doesn't seem to work. I don't have a question right now. I think that was fine. As I understand, I mean, on the free version, could students sign in a second time, like half a year later or not?
Oh, students can use it for as long as they want. It's free. Like they can use it at any point. 10 years from now, they can, I mean, as long as we're still in business, they can use it whenever they want. They don't need the university ID to go in on the free version. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, just a really quick question, Paula. In when you set up the account there, it asks if you're a student, essentially, or a professional. Do you want profs just to pick off, you know, I'm working with cross-cultural people, or do you want us to go to none of the above? We're just curious, because there is no option for identifying yourself as faculty or anything like that.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. I think if you want to see what the students are seeing, you know, select undergraduate or select graduate student. There's kind of right now built underneath, there's 3 versions. There's an undergraduate version. There's a graduate, I'm sorry, there's a graduate professional, just curious version. And then there's a global mobility version that's called the same. If you're working with executives who are abroad, would probably be better to version. So it kind of depends on I look at the version that's most similar to your group. I just want to warn, like, just a little forewarning, that your scores, when you actually do the assessment, your scores might seem lower than normal. Just remember that they're not the STEM scores are created not on population as a whole, but on individuals with international and multicultural experience, which means that the variance is truncated. We do that so that students can see sort of where their natural strengths are. And, you know, we talk a lot about sort of how we're naturally hardwired. Again, sorry, this is more than you needed, but yeah. Get awfully excited about this stuff.
Yeah. Rita, did you have a question? I saw that you unmuted your microphone. Okay, so then a few comments. So there is one comment from a student who said, as a student engaged in X-Culture as we speak, I agree that the challenge is really, I agree that the challenge really does improve cultural agility. This is my 3rd time around with the challenge, and my tolerance for ambiguity skyrocketed with X-Culture. Love from Grenada. And so I just now noticed that the student said she's participating the 3rd time. We do have some students who like it so much that they enroll again and again and again. So I would recommend that you maybe enroll in the X-Culture coaching program. You don't need to do it multiple times as a student. You can share your experience in the next round as a coach. And then I've been privately communicating with a few professors. So here are some of the research ideas that came to mind. One, and maybe Paula, you've done it. So what predicts cultural agility? I mean, do students from some countries or of some ages or of some, I don't know, gender background have higher cultural agility or lower? Another one, does cultural agility predict performance? So we have all kinds of measures of, peer evaluations, leadership status, number of conflicts. Would be interesting to see if those with more cultural agility, are they more likely to be team leader? Do they have fewer conflicts? Do they get higher peer evaluations? Somebody pointed out a very interesting thing. I missed it. So somewhere when you showed the improvement on the chart, so on some dimensions, the students literally maxed out. So they reached the maximum possible. So maybe the test needs to be done, needs to be even tougher, because it almost looks like we have a range restriction. So maybe somebody could have gone to like 12 but since 10 is the maximum, so maybe there was even more improvement. And so to me, a note to me is that, yes, maybe we should think about some sort of pre-project training and post-project reflections. So you were talking about doing that for your students. I think we should be offering that at least as an option to all of the students in case they would like to participate. Maybe something self-guided, pre-recorded, or maybe something that we do in a webinar form. But I imagine many students might want to go through that experience as well. So if any of the professors, I mean, Paula first and foremost, but if any of you do something like that for your students, maybe we can open up to all 6,000 or 7,000 students that we have in the project. So
I just want to share that right on the free version of my guide too, there's like tips for development and self-directed. There's challenges the students can go through and take to try to build their competencies. So there is quite a bit already built in. We can certainly talk about ways to make the free version kind of available to all those students. To try to make it a little easier than me saying, oh, just go and play around with it. It's we can try to instruct it a little bit more.
All right, so I promised 30 minutes, it's 40, so let's stop here. Thank you so much. My message also, or request to other professors. I know many of you do research in this area. I actually see quite a few professors here who published recently research based on X-Culture data. Ernesto, for example, I'm looking at you, he had like half a dozen publications of all kinds of things. So Phil, Karen, Sonia, you probably do some research in this area. So if you ever wanted to share some of your findings and maybe even some discussion of implications of your findings, I'm sure it would be of much interest to many professors. Ernesto came here, so I know you've done so much research on X-Culture, and I suspect much of that would be interesting to students, but also to professors. So maybe one day we should do such a research presentation with you as well. So thank you so much, Paula, and thank you for being so generous with your instruments. So we need to make it more known to professors that it's available, and students, in case students want to do it on their own initiative. So it seems like, you can't improve it unless you can measure it. And so measuring is the first step, and it's a nice tool to do it.
Thank you, Bus. And I will say to all the faculty on this call, please, and you as well, Bus, please tell your colleagues, tell your friends, because, we want to stay in business, and using the tool is sort of a first step, because then we can show usage, but also just if you can use it and pay for it, even better. we would love to stay in business for a good long time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Ernesto, your research on peer evaluations and country effects, I found that to be particularly interesting. So maybe we should do a presentation, because yes, I mean, it's interesting stuff as well. So thank you so much, Paula. Enjoy the sunny Florida weather. And, everybody, thank you. Have a nice day or good evening for those of you in Europe, Africa, and Asia. So
Thank you so much. Bye.